My first question is, do I really need to use this mic? I do. All right, good, we'll do it then. One of the reasons that we wanted to bring people together is so that we can just be in each other's company. So I really am sorry to interrupt you. I love the buzz and I love to be in a room with this whānau, with my whānau. So thank you for coming. My name's Matt Langworthy. I'm with the Human Rights Commission. We'll do some introductions, more introductions in a minute. But first, we'll karakia, if that's okay. Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa pounamu te moana, hei huarahi mā tātou I te rangi nei, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou ia tātou katoa. May peace be widespread, may the sea be like greenstone, a pathway for us all this day. Give love, receive love, and let us show respect for each other. Just a little bit of context about what we'll do today. We have a few minutes where we'll just give some context about who we are and what we do and what we're doing today. The main bulk of our time will be in three group activities. And we're just going to work together around these 6 stations, moving around the room, to come up with a whole lot of ideas about what would make faith spaces safer for rainbow people. So Sean and I will walk you through each exercise, and there'll be time for breaks as well. The breaks are pretty big because we really want to spend time with you, and we want you to spend time together. So there's plenty of time to hang out and talk as well. Just before we do a little whanaungatanga, a couple of things about our well-being today. So we know to drop, cover, and hold. There's lots of exits everywhere. The assembly point, if you need to get out of the building, is that direction. We have breaks, as I said, but we really encourage you, if anything about either us or our content or our conversation is leaving you feeling unsettled, to take other time away that you need. There's a quiet room that way in the facility. There's a bit of a garden here. If you need a walk, you can go that way to find Hagley Park. If you need to debrief, did I point the wrong way? Thank you. That way. Ask a local, they'll tell you. If you need to debrief during our time or after our time, can I just get Shanice and Andre to stand up? So there's 4 of us here from the commission, Sean, myself, Shanice, Andre. Grab any one of us. We'll be here all weekend. If you want to talk about something, we're here to hang out. There's also Neil and Craig, and a lot of the hosts from the church are hanging around as well. Around the room, there are some A3s that say, need a break. If you need more assistance, either now or later on, then we can give you on the spot. There's some information there about how to get help. We can help you with that. Our main priority is that you are well today and after what we do today. So this isn't going to be a heavy session, I don't think, but it still needs to be said. Look after yourselves. A lot of you have gotten up early, traveled a long way. Take care of yourselves today. I have in my notes to talk about our agreed behaviors today, but I'm looking around the room and thinking we're going to be good. So I don't think we'll have a big session to kind of figure out what that's going to be, but it goes without saying that we need to listen to each other and respect any difference in views. We're here to find common ground, and if we need to talk about some of our differences in the process of that, let's do that warmly and generously and in the direction of finding common ground together. Again, we're here to help with that. If you need someone to help you process what you're talking about at any point, come and find us, and we can do that. Any housekeeping questions? Yeah. So there's morning tea, food and coffee, and there's also lunch when we finish at 12:30. Kia ora, Hemi, thank you. If you're a timekeeper, we're aiming for 10:40 for our first break. So if you need to count down, you go ahead and do that. Oh yes, thank you. The organizers have asked us if they can take photos today. So it's okay with all of us on the presenting team. If it's okay with you, that's great. If it's not, and you see a photographer, turn around or just ask them to go elsewhere. Is that a...
It's probably going to be me who's the photographer, so shoo me away.
We might introduce ourselves before we go any farther. So as I said, I'm Matt Langworthy. I'm part of the Conversion Practices Response Team, which is a new kind of project team in Wellington. My background is in public health and in the justice sector, and I came to this work as a survivor of a long time in conversion practices and as a person of faith. And I'm I love the work the Commission is doing and its commitment to putting survivors and rainbow people at the front of this work. So I hope that in our work today you'll see us here to listen, and if you don't, call me out on it. I'll get our team to introduce themselves.
Kia ora everybody, my name is Sean Wimalaratne. I am also part of the CP team. I am 2 months in now. Extremely happy to be part of this ropu, and yeah, I'm very passionate about this mahi because I am also a survivor from Faith Spaces. It's awesome to work with such awesome leaders as well to lean on when you're having those personal moments as well as those professional moments. My background, I was born in a beautiful island called Sri Lanka. Moved to Aotearoa in 2008 when I was 11. I've been here ever since. It was 15 years a couple of weeks ago. Based in Pōneke, do lots of work at the CP space and also externally as a trustee for a charity called Adhika Aotearoa, which is a South Asian rainbow trusteeship charity that supports our ethnic communities, diaspora mainly. Yeah, that's a bit about me. I'll pass it to Shanice.
Kia ora tātou katoa, ko Pukapuka te rohe kāinga, ko Loto te pākainga, ko te whare māmoa, te whare tūpana, ko Mataliki te mana tūpana. He Pākehā tōku mama engari no Tainui te iwi huki. My name is Shanice. My father's side's from the Cooks. My mum's side's Tainui and a mix of European, the classic mix. Yeah, I'm in the Conversion Practices Response Team as a senior advisor. And I'm based in Auckland if anyone wants follow-ups. And I'm just looking forward to today. So nice to meet you everyone. And I'll give this to Andre.
Thank you so much. Kia ora tātou, te alofa lava, assalamu alaikum. My name is Andre Afimasanga, and I'm a former pastor, and I'm an ally. No, just kidding, I'm not. No, just kidding. So, I'm joking. I'm actually, I'm a former pastor, so I can't, but I'm Samoan and I'm also a survivor of conversion practices and have been a pastor in Sydney and Wellington for a long time as well, until I got to a certain age, and also a survivor of conversion practices that I realised that in order for me, that number one, these practices didn't work and they were having really detrimental harm to me, and that in order for me to accept my sexuality and who I was, and for me to no longer be embarrassed of myself, that unfortunately I needed to just resign from my job, a job that I loved and a job that I believed that I had a calling on my life for. But that's sort of the decision that I got to, and I know that I'm in a room where other people might be through that experience, or there are allies here who, because of their support for our community, have had to make a similar decision as well. So I just pay my respects to all of you in the room as well, and thank you for being here at our session today.
Kia ora koutou katoa, ko Neil Ballantyne Tukunga, and it's this way. Be the chairperson of Diverse Church Trust New Zealand. And on behalf of Diverse Church Trust, no mai haere mai, and welcome to Awaken 2023! Woo! And what a way to kick it off. It's super exciting to be partnering with the Human Rights Commission this year, especially around something as important as the conversion therapies work around that legislation. Diverse Church New Zealand was quite part of testing, was part of advocating for that legislation, and we're a part of a body that was working this around some of the conversations for how to actually enact it. So to now be part of this workshop, which is taking it to that next level and seeing how we can actually apply it within churches and resource churches to understand the legislation better is incredibly exciting for us. So welcome, 3 times welcome. I'll be around. If you've got any questions, let me know. But otherwise, enjoy your time.
So what we're going to do now is take 5 minutes, and at each of your tables, can you introduce yourselves to each other if you haven't already? Maybe tell the story behind your name, if you want to, and a place that has helped make you.
We've been texting for the last half hour. He's locked. No, he's here, but he was going to come with us. Okay. I don't know how many times he's asked a stranger for help. So we'll be here for about half an hour. Jeremy's lovely. Still lovely.
Okay, everyone, thanks for that. We're really at our table. Just enjoyed listening to some of the reasons, to all of the reasons that we're here. And I think what I'm hearing at our table at least is there's a real desire to use some of our experiences for those who can, to be able to share those with others as well. So that other people don't have to go through some of the hurt that we've been through, and also to do some bridge building. So thanks for that. So Matt's just asked me to talk about the Human Rights Commission, or Te Kahuri Tika Tangata. So we're an independent Crown entity, which means our salaries are paid for by the government, but we're independent to the government. So we're basically what is called a watchdog, and we have an A+ accreditation internationally. So that means that as a national human rights institution, we have independence from the government to be able to call the government to account. So this is a status that we really value and hold dearly. Part of that means that we're also independent as well. So in the conversion practices space, it's a little bit unusual because on one hand, we're really advocating for the rights of our rainbow people in all settings. And on the other hand, one of our job is, because we need to respect all human rights, is that we also need to balance that out as well with the right for people to have a religious belief and also to express that as well. Unfortunately, when you read the media these days, and particularly people that oppose things like the Conversion Practices Bill, there's almost this idea that you can't do both. But I think a lot of us have probably wrestled with that over our lives, that in terms of how can I be a person of faith, but then also how can I express my identity, my gender, or my orientation as well. So it's not as hard as some people purport. And I think that's our job as the Human Rights Commission, to help bring some of that balance and some of that nuance and some of that bridge building as well. In fact, it's in the Section 5 of the Human Rights Act. A lot of people think, especially those who don't understand our legislation or the conversion practices legislation, think that we're there to police them. But in fact, the Commission can't make any determinations, so we can't call someone, we can't say that someone is racist necessarily, or that someone is homophobic, but what we can do is we can advocate for people's rights and hopefully bring a more mature discussion to the conversation. While we're on the topic of human rights, and while we're here in Christchurch, I want to acknowledge, obviously, our Muslim community as well, who just 2 days ago, it's the 4-year anniversary, as you know, of the mosque terrorist attacks here in Christchurch as well, just across the way here in Linwood and across the road at Hagley Park as well. And that's really, really important to raise because those 51 people, while exercising their religious faith and belief, were murdered, and simply because of their religion and their beliefs as well. So I want to acknowledge them, acknowledge that community, and also acknowledge Christchurch as well, who's been sort of building back amongst a number of other things in the community. So that's the role that we have as the Human Rights Commission as well. And so that means that if someone has a complaint around conversion practices, or someone believes that, Matt will go into this in a second, but I'm just explaining why we're here for as the Human Rights Commission, so people can reach out to us as well. We have a number of commissioners that oversee our work, and we've got a small team here, as Matt said, that has been set up for this time. So if you've got any other questions about us, please do come and ask us throughout the course of the day.
Kia ora, Andre. One of the things I like about the way the Commission thinks is the way that it owns its purpose statement, which is Hei Whakamana Tangata, a life of dignity for all. And I haven't been with the Commission for that long, but I've been so impressed with the humility of the people there and their passion for achieving this life of dignity that is encapsulated in that purpose statement. So we're not here to have an extended conversation about conversion practices, but it is the means through which we're doing our work today. So I thought I would clarify a little bit about what that is, what our role is. Anytime a law passes, some team of people is set up to kind of bring it to life, and that's our team here. So we did some behind-the-scenes work to allow all the various commission teams to be ready and educated to receive complaints about conversion practices. We'll also do education work and prevention work in this space, and we're producing some resources. We spent a lot of time hearing from people in the survivor community. What is a conversion practice? In the law, it's described as any practice, sustained effort, or treatment. So pretty much anything that tries to suppress or change a person's sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression. So that's pretty straightforward. Anything that tries to change a rainbow person is a conversion practice. And that includes things that happen in faith settings, in clinical settings, in counseling and psychological settings, in cultural settings, or anywhere else. For our trans and non-binary whānau in particular, it's really important that we keep articulating we're not just talking about churches. We're talking about any other setting where someone holds you back from being who you are. And it includes both formal practices, so camps, courses, workbooks, online, various activities online, or informal practices, things you might do together with a friend or on your own. And that's another important point. The law includes conversion practices done by someone else or that you do your own self. And I know that's, in my experience and others, it's very common that because of the indoctrinating environment we came from, we end up doing a lot of this to our own selves. Fortunately, some clever policy person put in the law a very specific statement that if you do conversion practices on your own self, you're of course not a guilty party under the law. So I felt good to see that there. So if we zero in just for a minute of those different settings on the faith setting, what we understand from survivors is that that's likely the most common place that conversion practices happen. They are settings that are rich in tradition and where there is doctrine and where there are ideologies. So the sort of ground is laid for conversion practices to take root in those settings. But it's important to acknowledge that faith communities fall on a really wide spectrum of accepting and affirming queer people. And Philomena, I'm pleased to just meet you and hear from you. Philomena, if you don't know, is the minister and the host minister for Awaken here at this church. Thank you for hosting us. And it's a great example of what she was saying about this community of real acceptance and inclusion of queer people. But we know that in New Zealand today, that there be no confusion, there are lots of communities where conversion practices are still happening at the other end of the continuum. One of the other things we've heard from the survivors we've engaged with is that many want to continue in their faith or a version of their faith practice. And that's another myth that everyone who comes out ditches the church. That's not what we've been hearing. So how can we help faith settings be safer spaces? That's what we're here to talk about today. And just to clarify, we're not here to come up with a how-to guide to being an affirming church. That's something slightly different. We're talking about how to move closer, acknowledging that people are in church communities are in a wide variety of spaces, and that if we can get all of them to move a little bit, it's a win, and then we'll keep on moving them. If I could speak to all faith communities in this country, what I would try to do is paint a picture. I don't know if you know the curve of adoption of innovation. It's got early adopters, early majority, late majority, laggards. There's a bit more to it than that. I would love to see an Aotearoa where the early adopters, like Aldersgate, talk to their near neighbors in the early majority, and where the early majority is standing at the fence, helping the late majority get over the fence, and where the late majority and the early majority and the early adopters become a mass movement that's too strong for the laggards to ignore, and everybody is helping everybody come along. So that's part of our mahi at the Human Rights Commission. I just want to clarify before we start what we're actually going to do with the information that we developed together today. So We have two things going on this weekend. One is this workshop today, and another one is a survey that we're running all weekend long for all conference participants. If you see one of these around the venue and you have 1 minute, scan that, and it's a survey asking similar questions to what we're going to work on today. And with all that information from this conference, we're going to develop a resource for churches that says, hey, do you want to engage with this conversation? Here's what Rainbow Whānau want from you. So we are not going to publish anything from our conversation or from that survey verbatim or link it to any individual person. It will all be summarized and turned into a public resource. And we'll tell you how to find that so that you too can see what we've come up with. So that's what we're about to do. Any questions?
Maybe just wondering how the work that you're doing in this space sits internationally with other countries.
Yeah, it's a good question, and Andre, you can help me answer this one. We are ahead of the curve in New Zealand in passing a law that bans conversion practices and in having, at least for a 2-year period, a funded group, that's us, doing work in this space. There are a couple of places in Europe and in Australia that have a similar ban in place. We've spent a lot of time talking to our colleagues in Australia because they're a little bit farther ahead in terms of their law. Without sort of blowing our own trumpet, what I would say, though, is that I think one of the things we've been able to do, because of all the survivors who have given us their time, including you, Amy, and others, is really lead internationally in being survivor-led and in digging more deeply into the less well-known stories of conversion practices. We have worked to center the experiences of trans and non-binary people and of Māori, Pacific, and ethnic groups. And in what we offer out internationally, through the research project that we're doing or through this work or other work, that's what I think people will notice is ahead of the curve from us. Do you want to add any more? Yeah, and that's what we're here to do, is facilitate that conversation. Any other questions?
I know that part of this party, there will be a conversation that will take place later in the afternoon with those who are in for part of this place. What would you see as being a useful outcome for us to work over the next hour, to think a lot of time, just in terms of helping, inform that conversation as well? Because, we can have an impact, and I believe people coming and wanting to receive and will be wanting to hear from this group.
Sean will explain in a little bit more detail what I'm about to talk about, but it's a great question. The outcome that we're hoping for is there are 6 different topics that we're going to work through today. And for each topic, we're hoping that as a group we can come up with 2 or 3 key priorities. And they will be then delivered to the afternoon session, the church leader session this afternoon. What I would say is that we could have a really blue sky conversation about what we want to look like in the year 2100. And we can do that. But we also should have a conversation that's very practical and very realistic about a group of faith leaders coming here this afternoon and